You know, guys, the killing of our 13 service members in the DRC has really sparked the debates in this country. Ever since the news came out that our 13 service members were slaughtered in a couple of days in the DRC, South Africans have been very angry, and South Africans are asking questions, and South Africans, they want answers. Some of the questions that people are asking is, what is our military doing in the DRC? What is the South African National Defence Force doing in the DRC? Are we really supposed to be there? Is it a must for the South African National Defence Force to be in the DRC? Whose interest are we protecting in the DRC? Are we protecting our people's interest, or are we protecting the interest of the elite? And is this mission really worth it? Is it worth it for the president of this country to keep deploying the people to the DRC to die? And is our military well equipped to be there in the DRC? We know that the situation is bad in the DRC. We know that the violence there is bad in the DRC. Is our military well equipped to be there? Is the South African government giving these people everything they need to be in the DRC? So these are just some of the questions that people have been asking ever since this news came out. And I think one thing that South Africans actually do not appreciate about the answers that have been given by the South African government is that they are trying to make light of the situation. If you listen to the likes of Angie Motshekga, you would actually believe that things are okay in the DRC, because she's out there in the media trying to say that, no guys, everything is under control, you guys are just panicking for nothing, everything is under control in the DRC. But if you watch the news, you can actually see that things are bad. Things are really bad in the DRC. Some of the videos that came out in social media, they were embarrassing, especially for the South African National Defence Force waving white flags. Like, these things, they were actually embarrassing. And the fact that we have lost over 10 service members in a couple of days, that alone should tell us that things are bad in the DRC. But if you listen to the South African government, you would think that things are not so bad in the DRC. So what is the South African National Defence Force doing in the DRC? So the explanation that the government actually likes to run with is that the South African National Defence Force is actively engaged in peacekeeping operations in the Eastern DRC. So this word, peacekeeping, is a key word. Peacekeeping, we are not there to fight. We are not there to be engaged in a combat. We are there for peacekeeping operations in the DRC as part of the MONUSCO and the SADC mission in the DRC. So this is what they like to tell the people, that we are there for the peacekeeping mission in the Eastern DRC as part of the MONUSCO and the SADC mission in the DRC. This mission's aim is to stabilize the region, protect civilians, and neutralize armed rebel groups, notably the M23 militia. So this is what they are telling the South Africans, that guys, we are not there to fight, we are not there to take sides, but we are there to make sure that there is peace in the DRC. So let's listen to the Minister of the Defense. You know, guys, I don't want to lie. I don't like these statements that are coming from the South African government officials, because they are contradictory. These people are saying one thing today, and tomorrow they are saying something else. Just listen to what the Minister of Defense is saying, and after here we are going to listen to the general of the of the military, and just listen to how these people are contradicting each other live on television.
So we have called for a ceasefire. I can assure South Africans that our camps have not been attacked for the past 48 hours, because unfortunately for us, when we're at Goma, your DRC forces were fighting Rwandan forces over our heads. That's where we lost the 3 people. So we had to quickly communicate with M23 to say, we're not part of the battle, so don't fight over our heads. And indeed, that's why then we agreed with them that we'll host a white flag to say, we're not part of the battle, we don't want to be dragged into it. But also, M23 needed a free passage to go to Sagi, to go and collect and retrieve their deceased people. So then we agreed on a ceasefire whereby they will get a free trade, a free passage we will not fire at their movement, because if they move, we are not sure which direction. So there was a clear ceasefire which was agreed by the generals from M23, but also by our generals. So that process has happened. Even now, as I say, there's never been any attack since the ceasefire that we requested or we instructed from M23. The latest information that I got around 1 o'clock said there's intense fighting in Goma between your M23 and your DRC forces, and the place is completely tense and the difficulties. So that's why we're communicating after every 2 hours to check what the situation is, and that's where we are. But from our side, there's been no activity, there's been no attacks. As a country, we've just read, as I say, we keep on a 2-hourly basis to check if there's anything that we need to do to improve the situation. But the president also has been in constant contact with the president of the DRC, with the summit DRC leadership, which is led by the secretary in Botswana. Last night with an engagement, I think the minister may speak about, with under the leadership of Tanzania, which is leading the process. But we are also speaking to all other forces like Angola, because Angola was responsible for the peace talks. So Angola also is being brought in. There's also discussions which include Rwanda, because it is alleged to be also one of the big perpetrators, and that's why we're keeping communications with them, and they've been friendly. There's been no hostility between us. It's just that at that stage when they were firing above our heads, the president did warn them to say, if you're going to fire, we'll take it as a declaration of war, and we'll have to defend our people. And that's when the firing also stopped. So we have called for...
So the Minister of Defense, Angie Motshekga, says that we were caught in the crossfire between the DRC and the M23 rebels. We were not on the side of the DRC, and we were not on the side of the M23. These people were actually firing over our heads. So this is the statement that actually is coming from the Minister of Defense, Angie Motshekga, to say that we were not taking any sides. These people were firing at each other, but they were firing over our heads. And I want us to listen to the general. I want us to listen to the general. And I want you to actually remember what Angie Motshekga said. We were not taking any sides. We were caught in a crossfire. We were between the DRC and the M23, and these people were firing over our heads. Let's listen to General Rosani when he actually tells us what is happening in the DRC.
And courageous members of the South African National Defence Force and our loyal and patriotic South African society, I come to you as a commander of the Armed Forces of South Africa to thank you for always standing by your defence force at all times, even in moments of calamity. We in the South African National Defence Force come from the people and serve for the people. As such, we will march together with our people in the defense of our beloved South Africa, our motherland. It is with a heavy heart that I stand before you today to address the tragic loss of our brave South African National Defence Force soldiers who lost their lives in the DRC. These soldiers were part of Southern African Development Community Mission in the DRC, SAMI DRC, and the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO. Both MONUSCO and SAMI DRC share a common mandate to support regional and international efforts in achieving lasting peace and security in the DRC. SAMI DRC and FIB, which is a component of MONUSCO, were both deployed with the mandate, among others, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo in neutralizing negative forces and armed groups in the eastern DRC.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Support regional and international efforts in achieving lasting peace and security in the DRC. SAMI DRC and FIB, which is a component of MONUSCO, were both deployed with the mandate, among others, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo in neutralizing negative forces and armed groups in the eastern DRC in order to restore and maintain peace and security and create a secure environment.
This is not what Angie Motshekga said. This is not what Angie Motshekga said. Because the general is making it clear that we are on the side of the DRC to repelling these militias. We were deployed to be there, to be on the side, to fight alongside the DRC to repel these people. But the Minister of Defense is saying that we were like in the crossfire between the DRC and the M23, making it look like we were not firing directly at the M23. That's why I'm saying, why are these people lying and saying that we are there and we are not there to fight with anybody? We are not there to get engaged in any combat. Why are these people actually lying? Because what the general is saying and what the Minister of Defense is saying, these are two different statements. These are two different statements. We were there on the side of the DRC. This is what the general is saying. But Angie Motshekga said that no, these people were firing on top of our heads. These rockets from the M23 and these rockets from the DRC, they were flying on top of our heads. These people, they were not even firing at us. They were not even firing at our base as the South African National Defense Force. But the general is telling you that we are on the side of the DRC and we are fighting with these people. We are fighting with these people. So why are these people actually giving us two different statements? Why is the Minister of Defense saying one thing and the general saying the other thing? Why are they doing that? Why? This is one thing that, like, I find it so hard to understand. I find it so hard to understand because if you listen to some of the interviews, the likes of Ronald Lamola and so on, these people, when they speak on radio, when they speak on television, you would swear that we are not there to get active in any combat. We are not there to get active in any combat. This is one thing that I don't understand. These conflicting statements that are coming out from the government, it's one thing that I don't understand.
Among others, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo in neutralizing negative forces and armed groups in the eastern DRC.
We are there to neutralize armed groups. We are there to fight. We are there to fight. Let's get one thing clear. The South African National Defense Force is in the DRC to fight. We are there to neutralize these armed militias with the DRC government. This is why we are there in the DRC. We are not there in the DRC to stand in the middle, to pretend like we are some peacekeepers. I mean, like, this is the same thing that the president of Rwanda said yesterday, in that the South African National Defense Force is in the DRC pretending to be some sort of peacemakers while they are fighting. These people are fighters. These people are fighters. And right now, this is one thing that the general is actually making it clear, that we are there to fight. We are there to fight alongside the DRC, to fight these armed militias. So why is the government of this country pretending like we are there not to get engaged in any combat? Why?
Brave and courageous members of the South African National Defense Force and our loyal and patriotic South African society, I come to you as a commander of the Armed Forces of South Africa to thank you for always standing by your defense force at all times, even in moments of calamity. We in the South African National Defense Force come from the people and serve for the people. As such, we will march together with our people in the defense of our beloved South Africa, our motherland. It is with a heavy heart that I stand before you today to address the tragic loss of our brave South African National Defense Force soldiers who lost their lives in the DRC. These soldiers were part of Southern African Development Community Mission in the DRC, SAMI DRC, and the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO. Both MONUSCO and SAMI DRC share a common mandate to support regional and international efforts in achieving lasting peace and security in the DRC. SAMI DRC and FIB which is a component of MONUSCO, were both deployed with the mandate, among others, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo in neutralizing negative forces and armed groups in the eastern DRC in order to restore and maintain peace and security and create a secure environment. They were also to provide support to the efforts of the government of the DRC in creating a conducive environment for humanitarian assistance and providing humanitarian relief to the population affected by the military and paramilitary activities in the eastern DRC, including internally displaced persons. Protect critical infrastructure in the eastern DRC and protect civilians and their properties under imminent threat of attack. The circumstances leading to this tragic event are complex and multifaceted. SAMI DRC, comprising soldiers from Malawi, South Africa, and Tanzania, was deployed in December 2023 to the eastern part of the DRC. Their main operating base was established in Sake, near the city of Goma, an area plagued by violence and instability for many years. The primary threat in this area comes from the rebel group that is alleged to be armed, supported, trained, and accompanied by the Rwandan Defense Force. SAMI DRC conducted its mandated tasks and, in the process, faced intermittent bombardment from M23 throughout the year 2024. In response, our forces executed counter-bombardments. On the fateful day of 23rd January 2025, the M23 rebels launched a full-scale attack on our troops in an attempt to take control of Sake, aiming to gain access to Goma, the provincial capital of eastern DRC.
And guys, like you hear that, like they launched this thing towards us, towards the military of this country. They launched it directly towards us. And this is not what the Minister of Defense said. This is not what she said. This is not what the Minister of Defense said.
On the fateful day of 23rd January 2025, the M23 rebels launched a full-scale attack on our troops in an attempt to take control of Sake, aiming to gain access to Goma, the provincial capital of eastern DRC. Fierce fighting ensued, and our soldiers displayed extraordinary bravery and determination. They successfully halted the M23 advancement and pushed them back, preventing the rebels from achieving their objective. However, this decisive pushback at Sake came at a great cost, resulting in the loss of 13 of our gallant fighters. Regrettably, on Monday, the 27th January 2025, several long-range mortar bombs were launched towards Goma Airport, with some landing in the South African National Defense Force base, leading to the loss of 3 additional South African National Defense Force soldiers. The families of the fallen heroes have already been notified, and plans are underway to repatriate the remains of our gallant soldiers back home to South Africa. Meanwhile, M23 reported suffering heavy personnel losses and subsequently requested SAMI DRC to hold fire so they could recover the bodies of their fallen members around Sake. We consented to this request. However, SAMI DRC set conditions, including a demand for the safe passage of injured soldiers to Goma for medical treatment. The South African National Defense Force, as part of SAMI DRC, remains steadfast in supporting all peace-building efforts aimed at addressing the escalating violence, finding peaceful resolution to the conflict, and averting a humanitarian crisis. At this painful moment, we lower our banners in honor of our fallen heroes and the ultimate sacrifice they have made. Their bravery in the face of danger has protected countless lives and upheld the values of peace and security that we strive to achieve. May their souls rest in peace, and may their families find comfort and strength during this difficult time.
So at least the general is trying to be transparent with us, unlike the government officials that are trying to make light of the situation and pretending like the South African National Defence Force is not engaged in any combat in the DRC, and saying and basically lying to the people of this country by saying that the South African National Defence Force was caught in the crossfire. They were not caught in the crossfire. They were not caught in the crossfire. And this is one thing that the general has actually made it very clear, that we are with the DRC and we are repelling these people. So now that we know that the South African National Defence Force is in the DRC, are these people well equipped? Because I remember one of the people that have been very vocal about how equipped is our military is in the DRC is Julius Malema. Julius Malema, this is one of the things that he has been talking a lot about, to say that what is the need for us to actually deploy the people to the DRC only for these people to die? And these people are dying mainly because they are not well equipped. The South African National Defence Force in the DRC, it is not well equipped. This is something that he has been saying a lot, despite the government and the likes of Angie Motshekga saying that he's lying. But he has been very consistent when it comes to this messaging.
If you had shot 9 American soldiers with that madness which is in the presidents of America now, they would have flattened you the following day. No one would have played jokes. People are playing jokes with the lives of our brothers, and we must not allow that. If they can't give them equipment, let them come back. They were the death before this one. The soldiers were telling me that there were actually 2 military helicopters in their base, but there is no pilot to fly those helicopters. The first and the last time they flew there, that's when they were taking them there. You've got some bit of air power, but you don't use it because there is just no capacity. So someone is sleeping, and what makes matters worse, they take Mom Angie to become a minister of defense after being a minister of sinkholes. I mean, this sinkhole started during her time. Now she's sinking the army now, after sinking Relebohile.
So this issue of equipment, it is a really important issue. Is the South African National Army actually really well equipped to be in the DRC? Are these people really well equipped to be in the DRC, or is this a political talking point that the people that are against the ANC are just using against the ANC? Guys, what are your thoughts about the South African National Defence Force in the DRC? Do you think that our force is well equipped to be in the DRC? Do you think our force is well equipped to actually fight this fight? Because one of the people that also has been very vocal about South African National Defence Force and them being equipped in the DRC, it is the former general of the National Defence Force, Ntate Maumela Motau. Ntate Maumela Motau has been very vocal about South African National Defence Force and saying that it is very, I don't know how to put it, it is very ill-advised to actually send the military in the DRC without proper equipment. Because if you are going to send these people to an environment like the DRC without proper equipment, you are just sending these people to the DRC to die. This is basically what you are doing. So I think somehow this is a message that is directly or indirectly towards the president, that if you are so determined about sending these people to the DRC, you must make sure that these people actually have sufficient equipment, because if you don't do that, you are just sending these people to their death. Yes, you're sending these people to their death. So this is the former general of the South African National Defence Force, Ntate Maumela Motau.
You see, it is dangerous for our government to allow a situation where it deploys forces and then those forces are not well equipped and prepared for the deployment. It is very dangerous. I can tell you there is unhappiness. I live here. I know there's unhappiness in the SNDF. I had the report of Parliament, which was being given by the SNDF, indicating that we are not well resourced. It can't be. You can't send people to go and die and you don't support them. Soldiers know the dangers of being on the ground, but they have got confidence that their people, their government will support them in whatever they are doing. You can't send soldiers and then you find them complaining of basic fundamental things. You can't.
Yeah.
You
So
can't
if that's the case, then why would we say to our soldiers, or even as a country say that we must apply force?
Yes. You see, we can't be undermined. We are a major country. We can't be undermined by some ragtag army which is being armed. We can see the weapons which they were carrying in this operation. Those are not the type of weapons which ordinary ragtag soldiers carry. There is a major force behind them. There is a force to reckon with, and that we should indicate to those who are supporting those people that we will not take it lying. We will not take it lying. Otherwise, you're going to be undermined by everybody.
So these are the words of the former general in the South African National Defence Force. So they are very concerned about the force and the force being well equipped. This is one thing that they are very concerned about. I mean, like, even in the country, especially when it comes to the South African National Defence Force being in the Eastern DRC, this is one of the topics that many people are actually talking about, that are we really well equipped to be there? Because some people are saying, yeah, the South African National Defence Force is well equipped to be in the DRC. And some people are saying, no, it is a lie. It is a lie. What we have seen just indicates that the South African National Defence Force is not well equipped to be there in the DRC. So the Minister of the Defence, Angie Motshekga, our well qualified Minister, Angie Motshekga, has basically said that we are well equipped in the DRC. We are well equipped in the DRC because you can see from this article, it says that the Minister of Defence, Angie Motshekga, has dismissed the claims that the South African National Defence Force troops in the DRC have run out of ammunition, food amid the ongoing conflict. This comes after the death of 13 South African National Defence Force soldiers who were killed in intensified clashes between the M23 rebel groups and the Rwanda Defence Militia and the armed forces of the DRC. And it continues to say that 3 more soldiers were killed on Monday during a mortar bomb attack by M23 rebels near the airport in Goma, where the South African National Defence Force has a base. In addition, 4 troops were killed near the SAIC. Motshekga, who visited the country which has been ravaged by war to meet the generals and other bases in Goma, rejects the claims that the South African National Defence Force has run out of resources. So this is Angie Motshekga saying that, no, we have a lot of resources. We have a lot of resources. So all of these people that are saying that the South African National Defence Force doesn't have sufficient resources in the DRC, they are telling lies. We have enough resources in the DRC. But then again, the same Angie Motshekga, it didn't take a long time before Angie Motshekga goes on national television and basically throw the generals under the bus to say that these people did not inform us that we need extra ammunition in the DRC. Minister of Defence Angie Motshekga said that they were never informed that the South African military force in the DRC needed ammunition. So Angie Motshekga, the same Angie Motshekga who said that we have everything. This is the lady that is leading and saying that We have everything. Angie Motshekga, the Minister of Defense, said that the South African National Defense Force has everything in the DRC. Motshekga, who visited the country which has been ravaged by war to meet the generals and other bases in Goma, rejects the claims that the South African National Defense Force has run out of resources. So according to the Minister of Defense, we had sufficient resources. But it didn't take long for Angie Motshekga to go on national television to basically throw the generals under the bus to say that these people didn't inform us that we need ammunition. So which is which? Do we have the resources in the DRC or don't we have the resources in the DRC? This is why I'm saying that amidst everything that is happening in the DRC, one thing that I do not appreciate about these South African government officials is them going on national television and basically lying to the people. Angie Motshekga is one of the people that have been trying to downplay the seriousness of the situation in Goma. This is the same lady who said that we have sufficient resources, and now she's coming back to say that no, the generals didn't inform us that we needed ammunition in the DRC. So which is which? Do we have the resources in the DRC or don't we have the resources in the DRC? Why are these people going out in public and giving us conflicting statements? Who are they trying to confuse? Are they trying to confuse us as the people, or are they simply lying through this crisis that is taking place in the DRC? This is one thing that South Africans actually needs to understand. From the minister, do we have enough resources to be in the DRC, or don't we have enough resources to be in the DRC? Because it cannot be both. It cannot be both. And according to Angie Motshekga, it is both. On one side, we have enough resources. All of these people are lying about we don't have resources. And now Angie Motshekga is saying that they didn't tell us that we needed more ammunition. This is the South African government for you.
We reinforce on the basis that because there's been this escalated hostilities, then we spoke back home with the meeting that General attended with the National Council of Arms to say it's going to be very important because the situation is very fluid and very problematic. It's going to be important for us to reinforce to make sure that we don't reach a stage where we don't have. But at no stage did any of the generals that I spoke, even the force leader said to me, we've run out of ammunition. No. Even Tanzania was reinforcing, and even itself, DRC was reinforcing. But because of the intensity, we felt that to be on the same side, we need to reinforce because we're not sure how long it's going to last. On the first day, the commander said that we fought the whole night. And that's why we felt that because we're not armed to go and fight, we're armed there to go and keep peace. And now that we're caught in the crossfire, it's going to be important for us to reinforce. That's why we reinforce. But And that's why we felt that because we're not armed to go and fight, we're armed there to go and keep peace. And now that we're caught in the crossfire, it's going to be important for us to reinforce. That's why we reinforce. But there was no state, because I've heard this thing that they ran out of food. No, and that's why I said, at Goma, I went to our logistics center. There was no stage where they said, Minister, we have no food, Minister, no. Personally, no, none of the generals told me that.
Us all remember that the signals that the SANDF is struggling have been issued in the last 10 or 15 years. The defunding of the National Defence Force of South Africa led to us to say the state of readiness for our defence force. We cannot guarantee that we are ready, because you are aware that we're struggling to even maintain the aircrafts, like the helicopters, which normally give cover, aerial cover, to our troops when they are under attack. So in terms of that, we hope that the...
Okay, guys, I know that I switched off the microphone. Going back to Angie Motshekga, like it is ingenuous for Angie Motshekga to sit there and pretend like we didn't need any ammunition because we are not there to fight. It is disingenuous for her to say that. It's disingenuous for her to say that because the general has already told us that we are engaged in combat. And Angie Motshekga, she says that we were caught in the crossfire. Guys, we are not caught in the crossfire. We are not caught in the crossfire. We are in a fight. We are not caught in the crossfire. This is something that the general has actually made it very clear. So I don't understand why Angie Motshekga keeps on saying that we were caught in the crossfire, whereas we were not caught in the crossfire. Why are these people doing this? Why are these people doing this?
These soldiers were part of Southern African Development Community Mission in the DRC, SAMI DRC, and the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO. Both MONUSCO and SAMI DRC share a common mandate to support regional and international efforts in achieving lasting peace and security in the DRC. SAMI DRC and FIB, which is a component of MONUSCO, were both deployed with the mandate, among others, to support the Democratic Republic of Congo in neutralizing negative forces and armed groups in the eastern DRC in order to restore and maintain peace and security and create a secure environment. They were also...
So why is Angie Motshekga basically saying that we were caught in the crossfire and making it look like... I don't understand, guys. I don't understand these conflicting statements that are coming out of Ramaphosa's administration. I don't understand. Now, yeah, you have the Minister of Defense, who has never acknowledged that the South African National Defense Force is not in a good stage. I remember that there's an interview. Where's that clip? Oh my God, I hate searching the clips while I'm recording. There's a clip of Angie Motshekga where she was actually speaking with Clement Manyathela, and on this clip, Clement Manyathela is asking Angie Motshekga and saying that, Minister, God forbid, what if we are What if we are invaded? Is the South African National Defence Force ready if we were to be invaded? If we were to be invaded, is the South African National Force ready to fight if we were invaded? And the Angie Motshekga said, yes, we have everything. We are total, like we are fine. We are fine. If these people would like to invade us, then they can come and try to invade us. They can come and try to invade us because we are fine. This is what Angie Motshekga, she said, like she said that herself, that we are ready. We are ready. And now you have her deputy, General Bantu Holomisa, sitting there and saying that, guys, the South African National Defence Force is not ready. The South African National Defence Force is not ready. Now we are talking about two people. We are talking about the Minister of Defence and the Deputy Minister of Defence live on national television telling contradicting statements. They are live on national television. They are telling contradicting statements that are contradicting each other. That's why I'm saying, why is it so hard for this administration to actually be so honest with the people of this country? Why is it so hard for them to actually be honest with the people of this country? I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand. I don't know if I can find that clip, man, where Angie Motshekga said, yeah, if we were to be, she said we would be ready. Just listen to General Bantu Holomisa basically saying that the South African National Defence Force, we are not ready, man.
Must all remember that the signals that the SANDF is struggling have been issued in the last 10 or 15 years. The defunding of the National Defence Force of South Africa led to us to say the state of readiness for our defence force. We cannot guarantee that we are ready because you are aware that we're struggling to even maintain the aircrafts, like the helicopters, which normally give cover, aerial cover, to our troops when they are under attack. So in terms of that, we hope that the Department of National Treasury and the Cabinet will rearrange some of the priorities. Remember that the government of South Africa, especially the previous 6 administration, since 1998, they focus more on social security as opposed to military security. And as a result of that, the defunding of the defense force began. But I'm happy that President Cyril Ramaphosa had publicly said, we are going to move away from 0.57% of the GDP to 1.7% of the GDP. That should help our defense force. In terms of what has happened there, it's clear that these troops were let down by our other troops, our neighbors. The troops of Congo surrendered. The troops of Burundi, where they were supposed to cover another flank, they also disappeared. And all of a sudden, these troops of South Africa ended up being attacked by mortars and so on. But I think their reaction, the way they have reacted, they acted with speed, and I also am awaiting for the UN to come up with statistics as to how many rebels have been shot at in that incident, so as to see that our troops were fighting and effective. Around Thursday, Friday morning, they said they are running out of ammunition and they wanted a reinforcement. The ammunition was sent by Saturday evening. It was in Congo, in eastern in Goma and so on. So in terms of the issues related to us coming back.
And guys, that alone General Bantu Olomisa saying that the ammunition was sent to the Eastern DRC, it goes directly against what the Minister of Defense said, because the Minister of Defense said that they didn't tell us that they needed ammunition. So how is it possible that General Bantu Holomisa knows that the military in the Eastern DRC, they needed ammunition and we sent the ammunition, but the Minister of Defense is sitting there and saying that these people didn't tell us that the military needed ammunition?
And bringing those troops back now, the situation currently is as follows. Our government is in contact with the United Nations so that they can facilitate the transportation of those people out of Goma and so on.
So we know that there have been an open line between the president of this country and the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. We've heard that President Ramaphosa and President Kagame were actually in a call to discuss the ceasefire in the DRC. This is what the call was about between the president of the country, President Ramaphosa, and Paul Kagame, because we know that the South Africans military have been accusing Rwanda of actually arming the M23. This is something that they have not been shy to come out to say that Rwanda is the one that has been arming the M23. Rwanda is the one that has ensured that M23 has everything that they need. So they are basically accusing Rwanda of that. So president of this country and the president of Rwanda, they were in a call to actually speak about the ceasefire because of how bad things are in Rwanda. So that call didn't end well. Because after that call, President Ramaphosa went on social media to say that, fellow South Africans, following the recent intensification of fighting in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa has lost 13 brave soldiers who were dedicated to their mission and committed to peace. The fighting is the result of an escalation by the rebel group M23 and Rwandan Defense Force RDF militia engaging the armed force of the DRC and attacking the peacemakers from the SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. On behalf of the government and the people of our country, I express our sincere condolences to their family, their loved ones and colleagues. We bow our heads in honor of their heroic and gallant fight for the peace. We honor and mourn them. All necessary support is being provided to the families of the deceased and the families of the injured. The process to repatriate the remains of the deceased is underway. The attacks on the peacemakers resulted in the death of SAMIDRC members from the other troops contributing countries, namely Malawi, Tanzania, as well as the members of the UN Organization Stability Movement in the DRC MONUSCO Brigade. We honor all the lives that were lost and pass our condolences to their families, government, and citizens. The situation in Goma and Sake, where our troops and their counterpart are stationed, remains very intense, volatile, and unpredictable. The Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Mrs. Angie Motshekga, and the Chief of the South African National Defense Force, General Ruzani, and the SAMI DRC Force Commander, Major General Munwabisi, are working to ensure that the SAMIDRC forces remain well equipped and sufficiently supported during this critical mission. We are concerned about the speculation about the state of our troops and the battle conditions. All South Africans must rally behind our brave men and women who have dedicated their lives to bringing peace in a continent. Okay, why I'm going down fast? Okay, or to peace and continent. Okay, we are here. South Africa's military presence in the Eastern DRC is not a declaration of war against any country or state. The members of the South African National Defence Force that are in the DRC are part of the both SADC and the United Nations effort to bring peace and protect thousands of lives that are constantly threatened by the conflict in the DRC. The presence of the SAMI DRC forces demonstrate a commitment of SADC member states to supporting the DRC in its effort to achieve the lasting peace and stability and ultimately creating and enabling environment for sustainable development and prosperity. The president continues to say that we welcome the position that was recently adopted by the United Nations Security Council during its special sitting on the situation in the DRC, which calls for immediate and end to hostilities, the reversal of the territorial expansion by the M23, the exit of the external forces from the DRC, and the resumption of the peace talks under the Nairobi processes. The territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected in accordance with the United Nations Charter on the respect of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of other states. The president ended his statement by saying that we call on all parties to this conflict to fully embrace the current diplomatic efforts that are aimed at finding a peaceful resolution, including honoring Rwanda process agreements. We must silence the guns on our continent for the attainment of inclusive development and prosperity. I thank you. So this is the statement that the president of the country has actually released on social media after he had a conversation with the president of Rwanda on the call. But the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, basically responded to this statement of the president of this country, President Matamela, Cyril Ramaphosa. And the president of Rwanda was very brutal when he responded to the statement of the president of this country. So Paul Kagame says that I held 2 conversations this week with the President Ramaphosa about the situation in the Eastern DRC, including earlier today. What has been said about these conversations in the media by the South African officials and President Ramaphosa himself contains a lot of distortion, deliberate attacks, and even lies. If words can change so much from a conversation to a public statement, it says a lot about how these very issues are being managed. A few important clarifications for the record. Number 1, it says that the Rwanda Defense Force is an army, not militia. You remember that President Ramaphosa has actually described the Rwanda Defense Force as a militia. And number 2, President Kagame says that SAMI DRC is not a peacekeeping force and it has no place in this situation. It was authorized by the SADC as the belligerent force engaging in offensive combat operations to help the DRC government fight against its own people, working alongside the genocidal armed groups like the FDLR, which targets Rwanda while also threatening to take the war to Rwanda itself. Number 3, Paul Kagame says that SAMI DRC displaced a true peacekeeping force, the Eastern African Community Regional Force, and this contributed to the failure of the negotiation processes. Number 4, it says that President Ramaphosa has never given a warning of any kind, unless it was delivered in his own local language, which I do not understand. Oh my God. Did you hear that, guys? Did you hear that? Paul Kagame says that because the South African government says that Ramaphosa has issued a warning to Rwanda. And the president of Rwanda says no. President Ramaphosa has never delivered a warning of any kind unless it was delivered in his local language that I do not understand. He did ask for support to ensure the South African force has adequate electricity, food, and water, which we shall help communicate. What? he did ask for support to ensure that the South African force has adequate electricity, food and water, which we will help communicate. Wow. Number 5, it says that President Ramaphosa confirmed to me that M23 did not kill the soldiers from South Africa. FARDC did. President Ramaphosa confirmed to me that the M23 did not kill the soldiers from South Africa. FARDC did. So this is a statement that actually went viral. The last statement that Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, has actually told the president of this country, Cyril Ramaphosa. It says that if South Africa wants to contribute to peaceful solutions, that is well and good. But South Africa is in no position to take a role of peacemaker or mediator. And if South Africa prefers confrontation, Rwanda will deal with the matter in that context any day. If South Africa prefers confrontation, Rwanda will deal with the matter in that context any day. So the president of Rwanda basically accused the president of this country of being a liar and said, Ramaphosa, you are busy asking me to give your people food, water and electricity. You are begging for me. But when you go out, you are attacking me and calling my defense force a militia. The Rwanda Defense Force, it is not a militia. Stop calling us a militia. And you are a liar. You are a liar. So this is what Paul Kagame is basically accusing Cyril Ramaphosa of. So that was not enough. There's a video that actually went out of the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame himself, actually speaking about this issue and talking about his back and forth with the President Ramaphosa. So this is what the president of Rwanda basically said.
For the last 2 days, on Monday and today this morning, I spoke with the president of South Africa, who sought me out to speak with me on this matter because of their involvement in Eastern Congo. And he's also there pretending to be playing a peacemaker role, and he has a force that has been fighting alongside FDLR and has been fighting the M23 on the instructions of Tshisekedi, because these are people who are not supposed to be in Congo, that these are from Rwanda, or the M23 are not Rwandans, please. These are Congolese, and one time he accepts it, then another time he says no, part of it is yes, and then the other part is from Rwanda, and these are He keeps on going. And how do we, leaders of our own countries, accept this to go on forever and just accept that we shall be manipulated by Tshisekedi or whoever is supporting him? And South Africa dares even issue threats about what is likely to happen after that, and so on and so forth. Of course, we will see what threats they are talking about. Maybe they should have done that exactly for which they have been issuing threats. They should have done it to clean up the mess in Eastern Congo, or to fight back those who have been trying to clean up the mess. So then you have the whole international community just confused. They talked about Rwanda, they talked about the Nairobi process. Honestly, even here, maybe you will help me understand what all this means. The processes became an end in themselves. And the people leading these processes, became more important than the results of the processes. The Nairobi process became a Uhuru process. Then the Rwanda process, it's like you can't say anything that will displease President Lorenzo. Definitely, this does not help deal with such a serious matters as we are faced with today.
So that is the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, basically addressing the president of this country. So guys, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts about the situations, about the what is happening in Rwanda? I know that there's a lot that we didn't cover in Rwanda because there's a lot that is happening. There are a lot of moving pieces. What are your thoughts, man? Please tell me what you think. Go to the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.